If I had my way, elections would last 2 months. They would be publicly funded. And if a billionaire looked at a TV ad the wrong way, we'd put him in jail.
Scandal-plagued Maine Senate candidate Graham Platner used a fiery pre-primary address to launch a scathing attack on billionaires, claiming that the rich should be jailed for looking at political ads the wrong way in remarks about campaign finance reform. Democrat Graham Platner's Senate campaign in Maine has been overshadowed by a string of controversies. Since emerging as a progressive challenger to incumbent Republican Senator Susan Collins in one of the country's most closely watched Senate races, Platner has found himself repeatedly battling scandals and scrutiny. His recent comments about jailing billionaires have created ripples across the country. Republican critics pushed back against his claims. They pointed out that some of Platner's biggest endorsers are funded by billionaires and highlighted, in their words, the Marxist dystopian nature of the remarks. Others joked that Platner must have some sort of affinity for locking people up against their will, referring to recent allegations from an ex-girlfriend. Republican strategist Colin Reed pointed to some of Platner's biggest backers, including Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, both of whom received donations last month from billionaire donors such as George Soros, Pat Stryker, John Stryker, and Jennifer Pritzker, according to campaign finance watchdog Open Secrets. The remarks came as Platner was outlining his leftist agenda and taking aim at conservatives. During the speech, he also launched a personal attack on President Donald Trump, calling him dumb while arguing for a more left-wing political vision.
At 41, Platner is a Marine veteran and oyster farmer who previously served as chair of the planning board in the small Maine town of Sullivan. Despite the controversies, he has managed to build a passionate grassroots following, drawing hundreds of people to rallies across the state and packing theaters with enthusiastic supporters.
He's just extremely intelligent. He's touched upon many things that I'm learning about, through him, things that he can do for the state of Maine when I've lost a lot of hope as a nurse as well, with healthcare and affordability issues in the state. I think a lot of us have made mistakes in our own lives and things that we regret, and I feel that it's a very separate issue, the most recent one with texting and that. I think that's a personal issue between he and his wife, and I don't think that will impact what he is doing and what he's trying to do for us in Maine. I feel his character is still a very good character.
Platner's campaign has been weighed down by a series of controversies. He has faced scrutiny over sexually explicit text messages he reportedly sent to women while married, as well as allegations from former girlfriends who say he could be dismissive and demeaning toward women. The steady stream of negative headlines has left some Democrats worried that his personal baggage could hurt the party's chances of flipping this key Senate seat. His recent comments about jailing billionaires have created ripples across the country. Republican critics pushed back against his claims. They pointed out that some of Platner's biggest endorsers are funded by billionaires and highlighted, in their words, the Marxist dystopian nature of the remarks. Others joked that Platner must have some sort of affinity for locking people up against their will, referring to recent allegations from an ex-girlfriend. The remarks came as Platner was outlining his leftist agenda and taking aim at conservatives. During the speech, he also launched a personal attack on President Donald J. Trump, calling him dumb while arguing for a more left-wing political vision. Republican strategist Colin Reed pointed to some of Platner's biggest backers, including Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, both of whom received donations last month from billionaire donors such as George Soros, Pat Stryker, John Stryker, and Jennifer Pritzker, according to campaign finance watchdog Open Secrets. Platner's background has also drawn criticism from across the political spectrum. Last year, old online comments resurfaced in which he appeared to endorse political violence, downplay rape in the military, and make disparaging remarks about both police officers and rural Americans. The revelation sparked backlash from both conservatives and fellow Democrats. Platner later apologized, saying he was struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression when he made the comments, and that they did not reflect who he is today.
Being accountable to the people of Maine about my Reddit posts, being accountable when I found out that the tattoo I had from my time in the Marine Corps had offensive connotations. I got it covered up within days because I didn't want that on my body. Being accountable to my wife, which everyone as of late has learned that was a part of my marriage to Amy, being open and vulnerable and accountable to her. Those have been kind of hallmarks of my experience. And I think for a lot of people, that is what shows that I'm trustworthy.
Platner has also come under fire over a skull and crossbones tattoo that critics say is associated with Nazi symbolism. He has said he got the tattoo on his chest during a night of drinking while on leave in Croatia and was unaware at the time of any connection to Nazi imagery. According to Platner, he only learned about the symbol's association much later and has since covered the tattoo with a different design. Platner has also been dealing with fallout from reports that he exchanged sexually explicit messages with multiple women early in his marriage through the messaging platform Kik. The controversy deepened when reports found that he still had an active profile on the app, which has faced criticism from child safety advocates and law enforcement officials because of its anonymous nature. According to reports, the profile featured a shirtless mirror selfie of Platner wearing only a towel around his waist. The image quickly became fodder for political opponents, with Republican staffers later appearing outside the Democratic Senatorial Committee headquarters dressed in towels to mock the controversy. The issue gained further traction after reports that Platner's wife, Amy Gertner, informed campaign officials about the messages during the campaign's internal vetting process. The campaign has acknowledged that the messages existed, but has maintained that the matter was a personal issue that had already been addressed privately between Platner and his wife. One woman alleged that Platner twisted her arm in an argument and at one point locked her in a room. Platner's campaign has strongly disputed the claim, denying that the incident occurred as described. A general election matchup between Platner and Susan Collins would present voters with a stark contrast. On one side would be a progressive outsider with no experience in high elected office. On the other would be one of the Senate's most influential lawmakers and one of the few remaining moderate Republicans in Congress. First elected in 1996, Collins is the last Republican senator from New England and is often viewed as one of the GOP's more vulnerable incumbents whenever she seeks re-election. Yet she has repeatedly managed to fend off tough challengers and win another term. Collins argues that her long record in the Senate, along with her influential role as chair of the powerful Appropriations Committee, gives Maine voters a strong reason to send her back to Washington for another term.